Hello, you're welcome to class. So we'll be making a pattern of a trouser, a pencil trouser. So first of all, you have to take your measurement, and the measurement you will need for this is waist measurement, that's the waist circumference, hip circumference, waist to hip, your crotch measurement. Now you can tell the person to sit down and you measure that, or we have a formula that we're going to use to get this crotch. So then you need waist to knee, waist to ankle, round thigh, your round knee, and your round ankle measurement. So now on my pattern paper, I've made a space here of about 2 inches, and the top part I left 3 inches, okay, for this draft. So the next thing, I will have to mark out the vertical dimensions. All right, so now this automatically becomes my waistline, and from there I'm using the hip line of 6 inches. The hip line of 6 inches. So I'll draw the line. So I'll draw this line, and that becomes my hip line. And from the waistline again, I'll measure the knee length. And my knee length, I'm using 20 inches. 20 inches. That's on my kneecap exactly. So from here, I have 20 inches. So to connect the line, I'll measure it again, so I can have a straight line. And then I will use my ruler and draw the line. So now my waist to ankle is 37 inches, and that's the length of this paper that I'm using, 37 inches. So I will not add hemming allowance at this point. On my fabric, I will have to do that. So now you will need to start placing your measurement. Now you go first to the hip line, to the hip measurement. Now your hip measurement, my hip measurement is 44 inches. Dividing that by 4, I have 11 inches, and I will add half inch to that. So here I will add 11 inches and a half. So I'll place it on my hip line, and I'll mark the same measurement, 11.5 inches, on my waistline. And then I'll connect the 2 dots. So, like I said, we'll be using a formula for our crotch. So the crotch formula is your hip circumference divided by 20. And whatever you have, you use that as your crotch. So 44 divided by 20, I have 2.2 inches. So that's 2 1/4. So that's what I will mark. I'm measuring from this hip line. I'll mark 2 1/4, 2 1/4. So then draw the line as well. Now on this new line, the crotch line, I will measure 11.5 inches that we use on the hip line and the waist. That's because I want to make this a straight line. And after doing that, from this point, I'll measure that 2 1/4 inches outward. That's equally for my crotch. So I'll connect that. I'll extend this line now. And at this point, I will use my curve, the curve part of the pattern master, to connect this dot. Now this is the measurement, 2 1/4. 2 1/4. So this point now, I will use the curve to connect that to meet this hip line. I'll curve it to meet the hip line like so. So that way our crotch is formed. So the next thing we'll have to determine our green line. To get the green line, this is the point we are working with. So you measure from that point to this point, and we have 14 inches. Half of that is 7 inches. Okay, half of 14 is 7 inches. So I'll be measuring 7 inches from here, and then I'll mark it here. I'll do the same thing on the waistline, 7 inches. So I'll connect the two dots, and this becomes my dart line. Now on this line, on the waistline, I'll go on both sides with half inch this way, half inch this way. I'll stop it. The dart length will stop 2 inches before the hip line. So I'll connect it, form a triangle, and that's my dart. You get this dart on the fabric, then you sew it out. It's like you manipulate it out or you sew it out. So that's for the dart. Now the same line we extend it to the ankle length, to the full length of the trouser. So I'll come here, measure 7 inches, and come this way, measure 7 inches. That's the full length. So I will extend the dart line now to the hip line. This is my knee line and my ankle line. So I will extend the line now and come here as well and extend the line. So that becomes our green line. Now it will be the line that will take the measurements for the knee and the ankle measurement. So we go back to our measurements. The round knee we have here is, the round thigh first of all is 28 inches. So 28 divided by 2. So we have 28 divided by 2, that will be 14. So that's exactly what we have here. And now you have to ensure that this is the same thing. If not, it will be tight around the thigh. So we are done with our thigh measurement. So the next thing, we go to the knee line. The knee here is 20. Dividing that by 2, it gives us 10 inches. So now the 10 inches, you place it on both sides of this green line. So that 10 inches means 5 inches this way, 5 inches that way. So this is our 10 inches. And then I will add half inch for seaming allowance. Okay. So the same thing you will do to the ankle length. The ankle is 14 inches. Dividing that by 2, that gives us 7 inches. So you place half of 7 inches on both sides of the green line. Hope you understand. So you add half inch now and half inch this way. Okay, so you will, at this point now, we go back to our waistline because we need to take our waist measurement. This 11.5 that we used at the waistline is too big for the waist measurements that we have here. So the waist measurement is 37 inches. If you're dividing 37 inches by 4, so you place 1/4 of 37 inches here on the waist. So we place the 1/4 of 37 inches on the waist. That's 9.25. And then from this point, you add 1 inch. That's for this dart. You know, we used half inch on both sides, so you add back that 1 inch, and then we're using half inch for seaming allowance. So then I'll connect this point now to the hip line. from the crotch line, I will connect it to meet my knee. And then extend this line to those points. Okay, so the same thing, you connect the dots to on this other side. Now when you're connecting the dots from the crotch line to the knee line, you have to be careful not to cuff it too much. If you don't have your pants cuff, you can use your pattern master and just cuff it slightly. Cuff it slightly to meet your knee line. And then you extend from knee to the ankle. So you need to contour the waist to make it sit properly. So on the waistline, you go upward with 1/2 inch. You go upward with 1/2 inch and come down here on the crotch line with 1/2 inch, and then you connect the two. You first of all extend this line, okay, to meet the 1/2 inch. You extend it like so, and then you connect it at that point to meet the 1/2 inch that you've marked on the crotch line. So that way you've contoured the waist now. So the next thing, you just need to cut it out. So after cutting it out, you notch your dart position. And that's it for the front panel. Now for the back panel, you will just need to extend this with 3 inches, and you can use 1.5 or 2 inches around the crotch here, and the same measurement, 1.5 or 2 inches down here. But this crotch line, the extension for the back body is 3 inches. And then you slash and spread it at the hip line. Okay, so we'll do that on the fabric. So I'll be using the pattern to cut it on the fabric now. So like I said, I'll be adding the hemming allowance on the fabric. So I'll use 2 inches here. From the down part of the Ankara, I'll use 2 inches. And then extend the line. Like so. And then I'll bring the pattern. I'll bring the pattern, place it here, place it and make it straight on the fabric, make it straight on the line, make it touch the line. You pin that down, you pin it, then before I cut this out, you can choose to fold this in. That's because when you cut it, it will automatically give you some ankles to hem this fabric with. It will help when you're cutting it this way, so that you know how it's folded inward. Check that it's relaxed this way, and then you cut it out. So we will have to cut the back panel of it. So that's it. If you notice, it is slanted slightly, so that after when you want to hem it, it will be relaxed just the way you cut it. And this our dart position. So that's for the front panel. So we'll move over and cut for the back bodies. Okay, so cutting the back bodies now. I folded the hem like I did for the front panel. So I'll bring in my pattern now. But before I cut it on the fabric, like I said, I will need to slash and spread on the hip line. So to slash and spread, I bring in my paper scissors, and it's simply to cut this through. Then I'll pin it to the hem. Pin it to the hem and pin this way. Like I said, we'll be using 1.5 or 2 inches. So I'm using 1.5. I'll be using 1.5. So I need to pin this down. I'll pin this down and measure 1.5 at this point. I'll use my chalk and then mark it so that I will know where I'll bring in this other part of the draft. So you bring it in that way. Ensure that it's relaxed. Okay? Ensure that it's relaxed. You can first of all pin this to ensure that it's relaxed. Pin this part. Then you pin this as well. You can just pin this part just to make sure that it's flat everywhere. So now we will measure 1.5 inches. You can use 2 inches, but I want to use 1.5. So now on this line, like I said, you extend it with 3 inches. So this is the point of 3 inches. Then I'll bring my ruler and extend this crotch line like so. You need to extend it to meet 3 inches. It helps in the fitting. So at that point, you will cuff it. Use the cuff part of your pattern master and then cuff it just like you cuff it. You're cuffing it to meet this 1.5 you've added as allowance. So you cuff it now. You cuff it to meet the 1.5 that you've added. Then you use the straight part now to extend the line. So you can do well to just connect it to the waistline at once, so that when you're cutting, to give you ease. On the down part, like I said, we're using 1.5 inches. All the way to the ankle length. So that's it. And then you will cuff this. You cuff it to meet the first 1.5 is your focus for now. So you cuff it from there to meet that crotch. Then you cuff it this way. And then draw a straight line. So when you're done with that, you bring your scissors. So that's for our back panel. So the next thing, you just remove your pattern and then you sew. You decide whatever pocket, zipper you want to do with your trouser. Okay, so that one is strictly up to you. You can just keep this pattern for future use. Okay, so that you will not be drafting every time you want to make a trouser. So I can just label this pencil trouser. That's how I keep my pattern. And then pencil trouser. And then I can just use my masking tape and secure this place back. So that's it.